Canada, maple syrup and like Captain say, ay, kick your ass all hockey season, ay, now teach me riding horses, yeah, this is Canada.
So, did you tell your colleague Patty to take a flying leap when she said that Tim Hortons should get more temporary foreign workers after the jobs numbers came out last week? Like, why aren't those jobs going to Canadian workers? And why are you guys kowtowing to Tim Hortons?
So lovely performance as usual, Madame. Thank you for the question. We have a letter from many Conservative members who have written to me and to Minister Haidu and to another minister of requesting those changes. In fact, pleading that they require those changes.
That's right.
In their province.
They were pleading to end the temporary foreign worker program and replace it with a standalone program for agriculture.
Absolutely not the case.
No, it is. And I know for a fact.
Absolutely not the case. You were not copied on those letters.
Oh, I was, and I saw them, and now you're misleading the committee. Would you like me to read that to you, or would you like to say that that was a performance too? Look, I get it. Your colleagues have to cover for you. They go to the CBC to say they can't talk to you. You don't talk to your colleagues and the ministers about serious issues like this. That's a problem. I'm going to ask you this. You were supposed to be here for 2 hours today. Why are you leaving at the 1 hour mark? Is it because you can't handle basic questions like this? Like, why aren't you fighting for Canadian kids' jobs?
That's exactly what we do day in, day out. I fight for them as the minister. The government is fighting for them. I say to you, it's best that you start fighting with them as well.
Interesting times, guys. Interesting times. What can I say? Today is Tuesday, March 24th. My name is Bilash Krajcik. This is the Canadian Sovereigntist. Have a great article for us today. A little bit again on the energy topic as I covered yesterday as well, but it's time from the LNG side. You know, we all know that Canada is a serious energy producer, but aside from being the fourth largest, having the fourth largest reserves in the oil reserves in the world, Canada is also the fifth largest natural gas producer in the world. And last June, it became the 19th largest LNG exporter, guys. And that gap is not a market failure. That gap is, it's political. It's political. It's a result of decisions made over decades, guys, to never build the infrastructure that would convert what Canada actually has into what Canada can sell, can export, guys. And the Iran war just opened the most consequential LNG market window in history. Quite literally in history, because Canada is entering it we're entering this whole thing as a minor player, as a new minor player, guys. Instead of being one of the largest players, we're entering it as small fry. Canada small fry. That it should be a nickname. And what's funny is that our own regulator says we can't hit the targets that Carney's been setting out, guys. So let's go through the article. Let's see what they actually say. Canada is positioned to expand its exports of liquefied natural gas over the next several years as the Middle East conflict creates global supply shortages, though this country would fall well short of meeting the federal government's long-term goals. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Energy Minister Tim Hodgins are striving to spur development of LNG in Canada, believing that exporting 50 million tons a year is possible by 2030. They say that longer term, the country's total LNG exports could reach up to 100 million tons annually by 2040. A reality check, however, shows that those political aspirations are rosy targets rather than reflecting the harsh math of what will likely be built in the years ahead. Before the United States and Israel launched attacks on Iran on February 28th, about 1/5 of the world's oil and LNG passed through the Strait of Hormuz, which is now effectively closed to marine traffic. Qatar, the world's second largest LNG exporter after the US last year, halted its production in early March. Iran has launched multiple attacks on the Ras Laffan LNG hub in Qatar, inflicting heavy damage in a bombardment on Wednesday. Guys, I think this is a great time to really kind of unpack what we just read on the screen, because Canada is the fifth largest natural gas, guys, exporter in the world, and last June it became the 19th largest LNG exporter out of 24 nations. That is the entire story. Those two numbers don't make sense together. They don't make sense together because Canada is not consuming that much natural gas. So just the question is, where is it all going? Where is it all going, guys? Because LNG Canada in Kitimat took 13 years from its first proposal to its first shipment. 13 years, guys, to build Canada's first LNG export terminal. And Qatar, meanwhile, became the second largest LNG exporter in the world. And it's a country of 300,000 people. Guys, 300,000 people built an LNG operation so large that damage to one of its facilities this week is literally disrupting global supply chains. Guys, the resource-based difference between what Qatar and Canada has does not justify this gap. The political decision difference does. It's all political, guys. It is always political in Canada. Canadian politicians are literally incapable of making a decision that is for the good of the nation. I don't know what else to say. It's embarrassing though. But Canada is now entering essentially the most consequential LNG market moment in history as the first year exporter, ranked at 19th in the world, guys. Like, what's going on here? What's going on? Guys, this isn't bad luck. This is 20 years, probably even 40 years of poor decision making that's just compounding. It's just compounding. That is the reality that we live with in Canada on a daily basis. We're just led by inept people. It's either they're inept, they're not capable of bringing the right decisions, or they're purposefully malicious to the needs of Canadian national interests. I don't know which one's worse. Honestly, I don't. But let's keep it going. Shell PLC-led LNG Canada became this country's first export terminal for the fuel when it started shipping from Kitimat, BC to Asia last June. The project's shipments last year put this country in 19th place out of 24 LNG export nations. Canada is currently the world's 5th largest producer of natural gas. Only a month ago, an LNG glut had been widely expected. Global LNG supplies, however, are now forecast to be tight after damage to Ras Laffan this week. It could take up to 5 years for repairs to fully restore the lost Qatari output. Benchmark LNG spot prices for European and Asia-Pacific markets have doubled in March during the widening Persia Gulf conflict. What matters now is not only the volume lost, but the precedent set. Once critical Gulf energy infrastructure is seen as vulnerable, buyers will price that risk for longer than the initial outage itself, Rystad senior analyst Jan-Erik Vonrich said in a statement. So, and this is all you really need to know, guys, right here. We're promising these 50 million tons of LNG exports by 2030 and 100 million tons by 2040, guys. And this article does the math, and the math, it doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. What is actually under construction right now gets Canada to 32.85 million tons by 2030, and that assumes the sea listens goes ahead. Even if LNG presses forward with its phase 2 expansion, the total reaches to 47.85 tons, possibly by the early 2030s. So we're always falling short here, guys. Canada's always falling short of its targets. And Canada's own energy regulator put the 2040 range at 32 to 51 million tons, guys, not 100. And Ottawa is announcing targets its own agencies say are unreachable. So it's always political posturing coming from Ottawa for any major project that is being announced. It is always political posturing because it makes them look good. It helps them when they're close to an election like we are right now to get more points. To say, oh, the Liberals are going to do this. Oh, look what he's done. What has he actually done? He's done nothing. There has been no significant infrastructure being signed. Not one. And it's going to be the same story with this. It's going to be memorandums of understanding. It's going to be this and that, but there's nothing actually going to be signed. There's going to be no shovels in the ground because that's what they do. And this matters because the market window, guys, is open right now. Spot prices have doubled in March alone. Qatari repairs could take 5 years. Buyers are repricing Gulf supply risk for the long term, and Canada can't capitalize on any of it at scale because the infrastructure was never built, guys. So we announce targets, but we can't move on the LNG, right? Because terminals move LNG. We have no terminals. We have no gas lines. Quebec has massive gas deposits, but they banned the exploration of oil and gas. They banned it. Right. Guys, all of this infrastructure should have been built in like the 80s. Like this should have just been a standard operating procedure in the Canadian economy already. We should already have had these capacities a long time ago. a long time ago. They might not have had to have been massive capacities, but they should have existed. They should have existed. Qatar is not close to really any country that it sells to. It's natural gas. It's not. It's a tiny country way up in the middle of nowhere in the Persian Gulf. And then it always has to ship everything via cargo ships and all of that, and they've made a ton of money doing it. Canada could have been a similar thing with terminals on the West Coast, terminals on the East Coast, exporting wherever we can. Why aren't we doing it? That's the question I always ask. Why are we not doing this? Why have we not been doing this forever? Let's keep it going though. 2 BC projects are already under construction. Wood Fiber LNG near Squamish with a capacity of 2.1 million tons a year, and Hazley Nation-led Cedar LNG in Kitimat with plans to export up to 3.75 million tons a year. Nisga's nation-backed Ksi Limis LNG hopes to ship 12 million tons a year from Northwest BC to Asia. Wood Fiber is expected to finish construction by late 2027 and Cedar by late 2028. If Ksi Limis forges ahead, its exports could begin within 4 years. Combined with LNG Canada's Phase 1 output from Wood Fiber, Cedar, and Ksi Limis could put Canada's export capacity at 32.85 million tons annually in 2030. And if LNG Canada decides to press ahead with its Phase 2 expansion to double the Kitimat facility's capacity, total exports could rise to 47.85 million tons a year, possibly by the early 2030s. Other proposals in BC have included FortisBC's expansion plans at its domestic Tilbury LNG site in Delta in Summit Lake PG LNG near Prince George. In 2022, then Prime Minister Blackface Justin cast doubt on the business case for exporting LNG from the East Coast or Quebec to Europe. With the prospects for LNG shipments from Canada to Europe still on shaky economic ground, Canada's export capacity could stall around 50 million tons a year through the rest of the 2030s. The report doesn't outline specific LNG projects that would enable Canada to ramp up exports, but noted that there is potential for shipments overseas to rise up to 60 million tons a year by 2050. After the industry experts tallied the numbers, Canada's LNG export capacity is on pace to be far short of the 100 million tons a year envisaged by Ottawa by 2040. All I have to say to this is, it's time to unpack this a little, because in 2022, Blackface Justin stood next to German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, guys, and said there was no business case for East Coast LNG to Europe. Nord Stream 2 had just been halted. Just so you guys know, the Russians were making 2 pipelines, Nord Stream 1, which was piping natural gas from Russia into Germany, and then they were making a second one, Nord Stream 2. That second one was halted in operation just before the conflict in Ukraine started. And then Nord Stream 1 was sabotaged 2 months later. It blew up. There's the massive thing. And German industry has been in free fall from expensive energy ever since. And so Trudeau's watching all of this, guys, and he's telling the German chancellor, guys, there's no business case for Canadian LNG to Germany. Your economy is just going to... It's just in free fall. You're just going to deindustrialize because you don't have cheap energy supplying your entire car industry, your entire chemical industry, your entire steel industry is all run off of cheap Russian gas that you don't have anymore. But there's no case for Canadian LNG for you. Thanks, guys. And here's what Trudeau was looking at when he said all of that, guys. Quebec sits on an estimated 22 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in the Utica Shale Basin. A fully permitted LNG export facility already existed at Bécancour, 10 kilometers from those actual reserves, and Quebec has direct Atlantic access. The reserves are so pure that industry executives have said the gas could go straight from the ground to a home without processing, guys. And Quebec was importing $2 billion worth of natural gas annually from the US and Western Canada, while sitting on top of all of it, because the provincial government banned development, guys. Yes, they banned development. The federal government had the constitutional jurisdiction, guys, to treat East Coast LNG as a national interest project at any point and to push it forward. It chose not to. And the deeper point is, if Canada had built an East Coast LNG terminal, let's say in 2005, none of this would have been a conversation in the first place, guys. The terminal would have been operational, contracted, and expanding by the time Nord Stream burned. Germany would have had a supplier with Atlantic access already in place, and the Ukraine war, the Nord Stream sabotage, and the Iran war did not create the case for the East Coast LNG, guys. All they did was they revealed the cost of ignoring a case that was already there, guys. This is why all of this matters to Canadians, because Canada is the 5th largest natural gas producer in the world, guys, and it became the 19th largest LNG exporter last June. Quebec sits on 22 trillion cubic feet of natural gas with Atlantic port access and a permitted export facility, and it's importing that same resource from the US instead, guys. This is that hypocrisy, that constant hypocrisy that exists in Canadian politics, in Canadian infrastructure. I'm gonna pick at Quebec. Let's cater to Quebec. Let's give them these equalization payments. Let's let them have 62 foreign consulates. But they're sitting on 20% of Canada's natural gas reserve. They're sitting on it, and they've banned development. No. Let's import $2 billion worth of the stuff from the US instead of just pulling it out of the ground. Energy prices in Quebec could literally be some of the cheapest in the entire country. They could be essentially paying almost nothing for it, and they could be a major exporting hub of natural gas in Canada, but they're not, guys. And guys, these LNG spot prices that we've seen that have doubled in a month, and the Qatari supply disruption could last 5 years. That's what they're saying, guys. And Ottawa's response to all of it is announcing targets its own regulators say Canada can't reach it. Not only, but the other thing is they're just saying let's have these targets. Let's have these targets. What are the plans? In no article, when we hear about infrastructure, do they announce how they're going to do it? They never announce how they're going to do it. It's just, this is what we want to do. Great. I want $1 billion. You know what I mean? Guys, the market is wide open. The resource is in the ground. The infrastructure was never built. And that sequence of facts is not a supply problem, guys. It is a sovereignty problem that has been compounding probably for 50 years, and it's now visible and nobody's paying attention. That's all it is, guys. Nobody ever pays attention. We talk about sovereignty as if it's like some political speeches that have to be announced all the time. No, it's manufacturing capacity. It's export capacities. It's what you bring to the table. And we decide not to bring to the table what we can bring to the table. That's what Canadian politicians actively decide to do. Anyways, guys, this is all I have for you today. My name is Miloš Krajčnik. Stay informed, stay curious, and God bless Canada.